Welcome to all participants in the second day of first international virtual conference on gender and social sciences, diversity, challenges, and opportunities. This conference is organized by the Department of Gender and Development Studies, Lahore College for Women University, and Forman Christian College under the US-Pakistan University Partnership Grant Program, funded by US Mission to Pakistan and administered by United States Educational Foundation in Pakistan. Welcome to all participants again. Let me introduce our session chair. This session will be chaired by Dr. Rana Malik. Dr. Malik is working as professor and chairperson of the Department of Gender Studies, University of Punjab, Lahore. She has a postdoctorate in gender studies from the University of Oslo, Norway, where she won the ATC postdoc fellowship. She has 14 peer-reviewed national and international research papers and 30 conference papers. She has been awarded many international fellowships, such as the American State Department fellowships and 4 months residential stay for research and the ILO 2-month residency fellowship in Italy. Thank you for joining, Dr. Malik. We have in this session, which is known as Gender and Socialization, we have 5 paper presentations. Let me share with all the participants and presenters the format of this session. First, each presenters will be given 8 to 10 minutes. After 8 minutes, you will be notified and you have to wrap up your presentation within 10 minutes. After every presentation session, chair will share her remarks and comments, and then floor will be open for question and answer sessions. So with your permission, Dr. Malik, should we invite our first paper?
Sure. And I have just switched off my videos because there is an internet problem going on in the department. So I don't want to have an interrupted kind of session. So that's why I have to switch off the video. Yes, no sure, we can start.
Okay.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Probably Madiha has not switch on her mic, so she can't. We can't hear her. But like yes, I can hear you.
Yes, yes, Dr. Alize, you can start your presentation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saiba, for inviting me and being here with all of you. Okay, so my paper basically looks at the coping strategies, how HRAs as a gender non-conforming group, they cope with the minority stress, we can call it. We can call it the binary framework present in the situation in the scenario of Pakistan. Coping, basically, I have defined coping the way they respond to, they avoid the stressful situations. And the methods I use, basically, I collected 15 depth interviews with the participants in Punjab and Kasur districts. I used snowball sampling, and the inclusion criteria, it included basically being a hijra or a transgender. We can call them transgender. In some cultures, they call them transgender. But for me, transgender, there is a difference between hijra and a transgender persons, because the hijras are more indigenous. They belong to the third gender. Though I don't like this classification, but anyhow, for the purpose of this research, we have categorized hijras as a third gender group. So willingness to participate in my interviews and closeness to the first author's residence. I used thematic analysis for the data analysis. And of course, the respect for persons concerned for welfare and justice was all of these, they were taken care of. We used anonymity and the confidentiality. We kept all these criteria while reporting the findings. The way the hijra persons, the transgender persons, they cope with the they cope with the non-binary framework, with the gender non-binaryism. I have divided my data into 3 levels. They cope with at the community level, they cope at an interpersonal level, and they also cope at more sort of a individual level. For the HRAs, basically the most important thing was the community, the way they cope with their this minority status, being non-conforming to the gender identity they display or the sexual orientation. They cope at the community level, and the community was basically a very fundamental ingredient for them. They stressed in multiple interviews, they stressed the importance of community, and then they said that we belong to this community, we share and care. The basic value they attached to the community was basically the care and share. They cared and shared for each other through these, and then they also the very first survival mechanism for them to belong to the community. And the second level was more sort of an interpersonal level, or more at the interpersonal level, they also said that they have some male partners, and through those male partners, they also share their private lives, their personal lives with them. And those male partners, they also help them to come out of the stress situations. They also emphasized that some of them, they adopted the children, although the Sharia laws in Pakistan, they don't allow transgender persons or the hijra persons to adopt children, but anyhow, they informally adopted some children, and then they were taking care of their needs. And this was also basically, we can see that how they cope through this non-conformity with the gender non-conformity, with the help of their male partners and with the help of their children they adopted. They also felt like a family. They also felt more like having a sense of motherhood. And then at the third level, it was more sort of an individual level. At the individual level, they also avoided for example, the heterosexual marriages through the surgical castration. It was more on an individual level. They decided to go for the surgical castration and to avoid heterosexual marriages. And through multiple interviews, the participants, they stressed that their families, they wanted them to get married, and they have their own families. They stressed that they are not man enough to marry, and they and marry a woman and then start their heterosexual families. So this was more sort of at the individual level. So our findings, they say the coping was more at the community level, interpersonal level, and finally at the individual level. So the discussions, we have reviewed the previous papers. In multiple papers, we have seen that the community connectedness and the collaboration within the community, and it was more stressed in multiple multiple publications, multiple research work, more close to the subcontinent here and outside of this. And so the important thing, I mean, this paper, basically this publication, give us some clues that how IJRAs has a third gender community or as a third gender group, they cope with the non-conformity gender, non-binarism as a minority group. Thank you very much. Hello.
Thank
yes,
you.
I kept it very short and to the point.
Dr. Rana?
Thank you for this important paper you have just presented, and thank you for being very concise and
Welcome, ma'am. Welcome. Thank you very
an
much.
issue definitely
Thank you very much.
with all. Thank you. Okay, so your paper addresses an issue which is about the hijras and the coping strategies, that how they are able to avoid stressful situations, and you've seen it at the community, personal, and individual level. This is something which always comes before us, and as we all know, as a third gender, we have always been towards them, and they are definitely facing more stress and miseries compared to the other people, other gender binary sexes in the society. So yes, the attitude of the community, particularly towards them, that is more rude. It's more like fun making. It's more like we know the kind of attitude and behaviors they receive from the society. So in this respect, this paper is very informative in the sense that, okay, whatever a kind of attitude they receive or the behavior, and what are the different strategies which they follow for themselves. And as an insight, what I listen to this paper is that, yes, they also want to have families, but definitely not the families which the society pressurizes them to have, like the heterosexual marriages or the families. They want to have the families they want to be in, and they also have, I would say, a love for the children, and they want to have children, to live like a family, to feel it, as you said, that they want to feel like having a family with children. And and I think that what I see from your paper is that on the individual level, they have different strategies for themselves, like how they can cope with the stress, the level of stress they face. But collectively, they face the society, and collectively, they have the strategy how they can be as a group. And I think as a group, they have always confronted the different kind of pressures they receive from the society.
Thank you, Dr. Alizai, for your for sharing your valuable paper with us. Now, I would like to, with your permission, Dr. Malik, I would like to invite our second presenter. Do we have with us Ms. Yumna? Ms. Yumna Mir?
Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, Ms. Yumna is going to present on religious orientation, family ties, and respect of urban elders, evidence from cross-sectional survey in Lahore, Pakistan. Ms. Yumna, you can share your screen.
Thank you very much for providing me an opportunity to be a part of this international conference and giving me a chance to present my paper. As you know, aging is an important area of research as the elderly population is increasing all over the world, and in Pakistan, it is evident that respect of elders is closely correlated with the social, physical, and psychological well-being of elders. My research study was aimed to investigate the relationship between religious orientation, familial ties, and respect for elders. Respect for elders is decreasing even in traditional, developing, and patriarchal societies because of the interplay of globalized modern ideals and traditional values. In addition, elders feel loneliness in modern housing societies as compared to rural and even urban settings. Elders are treated differently in different social sectors of the country. Respect for elders is higher in rural setting as compared to urban setting, as we know all that due to the changes in norms or transition in demographic transition of Pakistani society. So the norms and values are also in a transition and in a changing mode. Nevertheless, patriarchal societies, including Pakistani societies, are experiencing a demographic transition. Similarly, tradition, values, and customs are also changes very rapidly all around the world, even in Pakistan, which directly affects the social life of the elders. In this current era of social change, values and norms are rapidly changing. Similarly, many norms and values which were linked to the respect of state of our elders are changes. Elders living in the nuclear family system felt loneliness and less respect as compared to the elders living in the joint family system. Moreover, the role of individual characteristics is also significant in determining respect and familiar ties of elders. On the other hand, younger working individuals behave in a dominant and deviant manner. Elders, because of their dependent
Excuse
position.
me. Excuse me, Yumna. Can you see your slides on screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay, you can guide me when you want me to move next.
Okay.
Sure, okay.
Okay. So I can operate it also.
If you want to, you can.
Okay. Nevertheless, I told it. Nevertheless, patriarchal societies, including Pakistani society, are experiencing a demographic transition. Similarly, traditional values and customs are also changing very rapidly all over the world, which directly affects the social life of the elders. Next. My study, in the current era of social change, values and norms are rapidly changing. Similarly, many norms and values which are linked to the respect and status of elders are changing. Like in traditional societies, there was an extended family system, and in modern societies, there is a nuclear family system, and breadwinner or the respect associated with the and power associated with the economic factors of this individual. Elder living in a nuclear family system. Elders living in the nuclear family system felt loneliness and less respect as compared to the elders living in the joint family system. Moreover, the role of individual characteristics is also significant in determining respect and familiar ties of elders. Younger working individuals behave in a dominant and deviant manner. Because of their dependent position in families, receive less attention and respect as compared to working and independent individual, which decrease their respect in the family. In my research, it was aimed to find out the relationship between familiar ties, religious orientation, and respect for elders in Pakistan, because aging is a very important area of research. So I choose this topic. It is important to study the status of elders in any society, because the proportion of elder population is increasing around the globe. As of 2019 statistics of Pakistan, 15 million people, over 60% or 7% of total population of Pakistan, or it is expected at 12% by 2050. For this purpose, I have tested two hypotheses. One is the stronger the familiar ties, higher the respect for elders, and higher the religious orientation, higher the respect for elders among people living in urban areas of Pakistan. Next. My methodology is a cross-sectional survey, which is an appropriate methodology to conduct this research. Best suited research designed for collecting quantitative data, which is with a structured questionnaire. For collecting data, I have selected an urbanized, definitely I am going to conduct my research on an urbanized city and capital of the biggest province of Pakistan, Punjab, and Lahore was my, so I have selected Lahore as my universe of the study, because it is one of the highly populated, urbanized and culturally diverse cities of Pakistan. I have collected data from senior citizens, both male and female. More concretely, the researcher selected only those elders who are 60 plus and were living with their families, extended family system they were living in. The survey was conducted among a total of 400 elders. The total of the male and female equally divided among respondents are divided among for my research. Next. The demographic information of respondents showed that 52% of male elderly men and 47% of elderly women participated in the study. Definitely, their demographic backgrounds are different with variation in age, marital status, income, or number of children. head of household. These are my variables. The correlation test among familiar ties, religious orientation, and respect for elderly data shows that familiar ties are significantly correlated with a religious orientation at a 99% confidence interval. On the other hand, familiar ties are also moderately and significantly correlated with respect for elder at a 95% confident interval. On the other hand, religious orientation is strongly correlated with respect for elder at a 95% confidence interval. This implies that respect for elder is higher in religious oriented families similar to familiar ties. Next. My research, results of my research, finding of my research are consistent and in contrast to the previous literature published on this topic related to familiar ties or religious orientation. The finding of my research are in line to the previous studies about the increasing tendencies of the nuclear family system, even in traditional developing societies like Pakistan. These findings are also replicated by the current study and found that in almost 3 out of 4 households, elders are not head of household. Someone else was the head of household. Next. 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 Coming to the conclusion, my research was aimed to find out the relationship between familiar ties, religious orientation, and respect for other elders. Results indicated that traditional values are changing very rapidly. The proportion of the nuclear family system increasing, and in 3 out of 4 households, elders were not the head of households. In addition, there is a positive relationship between religious orientation and familiar ties and respect for elders. Moreover, familiar ties are also positively related to the respect of elders. An increase in respect for elders was noted among families that were more religious and integrated in comparison to less religious and less integrated families. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rana.
Thank you so much, Yumna. It's very, again, a very significant topic which you have chosen. As you said, respect for the elders, which is aging. The research was very appropriate. The methodology you chose was seems to be very appropriate. I just have 1 or 2 small queries regarding, probably you have skipped the details because of the shortage of time, but it would be interested to know that how you have actually measured your independent variables, which was the religious orientations and the family ties. So how you managed to measure these 2, and then you had a correlational analysis taking these 2 independent variables with the different demographics as we have seen. So probably it is of the interest to the listeners who are listening that how you measure them, and then how you actually carried out your analysis.
Linear regression, I used this, my all data was analyzed by using SPSS IBM version 21.0, and linear regression test was applied on my data, for my data.
Yes, that we can see. But again, my question is that how you have measured your independent variables. What tools did you use to collect data on these 2 variables?
My variables are familiar ties, religious orientation, and respect for elders. Yeah. And I used different sub-variables, like when I was talking about familiar ties. So I have developed sub-questions related to this. I will share my questionnaire with you.
No, there is no need for that. Okay, fine. So you have developed your own questionnaire for collecting data on these measures. This is what you are stating.
Exactly. Yes, yes. I have developed my own questionnaire, not using any already established.
Okay, I was just thinking that maybe you have used some kind of standardized, because when we say you, because like it, it's again a trick one.
Sorry, I couldn't get you. Sorry, Dr.
Because sometimes we sit in religion. So I was not, I was confused a little that how you have actually defined religious orientation. What actually we mean by that when we say that there will high the religious orientations and high will be the respect for the elders. So I was a little confused that, that is this the attitude towards the religion or the practices we do. For example, like we pray 5 times.
Yeah. I asked questions, different questions related to the aptitude or religious practices. Like एक मेरा क्वेश्चन था कि आपने कितने आप रिलीजन पे पेरेंट्स के राइट्स आपको पता है? मैंने एक क्वेश्चन उनसे ये किया था कि आप क्या जानते हैं कि माँ बाप का मकाम क्या है या उनको क्या उनकी क्या, और एक उनकी इकोनॉमिक के माँ बाप के ऊपर हक, माँ बाप का हक क्या है इकोनॉमिक उनके ऊपर ना, उनकी जो वो अर्न करते हैं उसके ऊपर पेरेंट्स का क्या हक है। इस तरह के मैंने क्वेश्चंस उनसे पूछे थे जिसकी बेसिस पे फिर ये कंक्लूड किया गया था। इन 2016 आई डिड माय रिसर्च।
ओके फाइन, वेरी फाइन। अच्छा, अगर आप हमें थोड़ा सा ना अपने सैंपल के बारे में बता सके, ये जो आपके रिस्पोंडेंट्स थे ये कौन लोग थे?
ये रिस्पोंडेंट मेरे 400 जॉइंट फैमिली उस फैमिली सिस्टम में रहने वाले थे और मैंने रैंडम सैम्पलिंग की थी। मैंने इसको पहले 2 टाइप ऑफ, जस्ट अ मिनट, सैम्पलिंग स्ट्रेटजी जो मैंने यूज की थी, 2 स्टेज सैम्पलिंग स्ट्रेटजी थी। एट फर्स्ट स्टेज ऑफ सैम्पलिंग मैंने यूनियन काउंसिल से 2 रूरल लाहौर में किया था। ये सारा रूरल टाउन्स को वो आइडेंटिफाई किया था। एक टाउन था मेरा निश्तर टाउन और एक मेरा था ये सिटी जो सेंटर मेन सिटी है, और उसमें से फिर सेंसस ब्लॉक्स को रैंडमली सिलेक्टेड फ्रॉम ईच यूनियन काउंसिल। उसके बाद मैंने उनमें से रैंडमली अपने रिस्पोंडेंट लिए थे। मुझे 60+ एज के लोग चाहिए थे, मेल या फीमेल, जो कि अपनी फैमिली के साथ रहते थे। उसमें मैंने ओल्ड
तो ओके फाइन, ठीक हो गया, बिल्कुल सही है आपका सैंपल भी और तमाम चीजें। वन लास्ट थिंग व्हिच आई वाज वंडरिंग इज कि आपने 60+ एज ग्रुप से आपने ये डाटा
जी
करवाया और ये एल्डर्स हैं और जो हमारी स्टडी है वो भी एल्डर्स के बारे में है। सो व्हाट आई अंडरस्टूड फ्रॉम योर प्रेजेंटेशन आल्सो दैट, जैसे भी आपने कहा कि हाई द रिलीजियस ओरिएंटेशंस, हाई विल बी द रिस्पेक्ट फॉर द एल्डर्स। तो हम क्या एल्डर्स से ही उनके बारे में पूछ रहे हैं या हमें यंग उनके जो बच्चे थे उनसे पूछना चाहिए था? थोड़ा सा
जी, ये रिस्पोंडेंट मेरे जो थे ना, एक्चुअली मैं परसेप्शन के साथ आई थी। मेरा जो इस टॉपिक को चूज करने की रीजन थी वो ये थी कि मैं बीइंग अ डिप्टी डायरेक्टर इन सोशल वेलफेयर डिपार्टमेंट, मैंने देखा था कि ओल्ड होम इमर्ज हो रहे हैं, ओल्ड होम बहुत सारे बन रहे हैं और उसकी वजह से लोग वहां आ रहे हैं। तो एज ए सोशियोलॉजिस्ट मेरा ये व्यू था कि पाकिस्तान में क्या ये फैमिली टाइज इतनी वीक हो रही हैं, तो कि उसकी क्या रीजन है कि यहाँ पे ओल्ड होम बन रहे हैं। उसकी वजह से मैं इस टॉपिक की तरफ आई थी। डेफिनेटली फर्दर रिसर्चेस उन पे कंडक्ट की जा सकती है, लेकिन पहले मैंने उन्हीं से एल्डर्स का परसेप्शन ही लिया है।
चले, ठीक हो गया मेरा ख्याल से कि जैसे आपने खुद ही कहा कि देयर इज अ रूम फॉर फर्दर रिसर्च इनटू दिस टॉपिक और इसमें जी बिल्कुल।
I am doing my PhD in sociology and this is my last year, और my PhD topic is also related with gender, women, और मैंने older working women experiences पे research conduct कर रही हूँ मैं पंजाब में।
That's great जी, wish you good luck। और मेरा ख्याल है there is always a room present in each research, in each and every research which we conduct, so we can also have a kind of survey with the young people that how religious orientated they are in their lives, and then we can see it that how they respect their elders, and same is with the nuclear and the joint family system. Okay, thank you Yumna, thank you so much, and we move forward to the next phase.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yumna. Thank you, Dr. Rana, for sharing for your valuable comments, because majority of our participants are scholars, so it will be great learning for them. So let's move to our next presentation. Our next presenters are Anam Fatma and Sadia Khan, and they are presenting their paper on identity style, perceived social support, gender stereotype and rejection, sensitivity in young adults. Anam, are you with us?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you like to share your presentation, or do you want me to share your presentation? आप खुद करेंगी?
No, ma'am, आप कर दे.
Okay.
Ma'am, can I start?
Bilkul, Anam, you can start.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome. My name is Anam Fatima. I am final year bachelor student. I am specializing in psychology from Lahore Leeds University. Now, I would like to start by sharing with the title of my presentation: Identity Style, Perceived Social Support, Gender Stereotype, and Rejection Sensitivity among Young Adults. Identity styles. Identity styles refer to the difference in the way individuals construct and devise or maintain their sense of identity. Bajonski in 1988 developed the social cognitive model that distinguishes three styles by which individuals engage the task associated with identity formation: informational identity style, normative identity style, and diffuse avoidant identity styles. Perceived social support refers to a person's self-appraisal of the behavior support of significant others. And now, rejection sensitivity is defined as the personality disposition characterized by the over sensitivity to rejection. Social rejection: individuals who are sensitive to social rejection tend to anxiously or angrily expect, readily perceive, and intensely react to it. Gender stereotype. Gender stereotype refers to the overgeneralization about the attributes and characteristics of individual based on gender. This stereotype can be positive or negative. Most of the time, stereotype function as schemas, which are a cognitive framework for interpreting, organizing, and recollecting information with no troubles. Now move toward the literature review. Ma'am, next please.
Yes. Can you see, Anam? I moved
Yes,
your
ma'am.
slide.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Literature review. Dunkel discovered that the role of family is of course determinant for family formation, identity formation, given that the family functioning and family communication pattern predict identity styles of people. The study also examined that young adults' social and emotional outcome also affected by identity styles by examining their perceived social support and effect. In 2018, Bushra Hassan et al. In a qualitative study explored the influence of perceived social support on identity formation through thematic analysis of semi-structured interview along 12 Pakistani young adults. This study revealed that Western theories of identity formation often provide a negative view of normative orientation as blind obedience. Without exploring alternatives, Pakistani emerging adults suggest a much more complex interplay between personal interest and normative influence on identity formation. Participants describe various ways of reconciling normative expectations, parental, religious, and cultural, with their personal interests, preferences, and exploration when deciding about their careers, values, and relationships. In Pakistani culture, normative influence seem to be a play more positive and flexible role in identity construction than is suggested by previous Western research. This study shows that there is a link between perceived social support that is provided by family, peers, and social groups and identity formation in young adults. Next, please, ma'am. In a large-scale cross-culture study on gender stereotype that was proposed by William and Bass in 2019, offered university students in 27 countries with adjective checklist with the standard personality measures consisting of 300% descriptive adjectives. Students indicate whether in their culture each adjective was more characteristic of man versus more characteristic of woman or not differentially associated with either sex. Students generally agreed about the characteristic differentially associated with man and woman, but differences between the male and female stereotype did emerge. Stereotypes related with male and female were varied the most in Netherlands, Finland, Norway, Germany, and least in Bolivia, Scotland, and Venezuela. Additionally, greater variation about stereotype was found in Protestant compared to Catholic countries in more developed countries and in countries higher in individualism. This study indicate the influence of culture and religion in development of gender stereotype. Various researchers have demonstrated that rejection from parent and peers is associated with higher rejection sensitivity. That rejection sensitivity is linked with the lower social threat detection threshold. And according to Downey and Feldman, in 1996, intentional rejection is more easily recognized by the ambiguous behavior of others, and the sensitivity of rejection is associated with intensified reactivity to clues and signs linked with the rejection. Study and hypotheses of the paper. Objectives of the studies are as follows: to explore the relationship between identity styles, perceived social support, gender stereotype, and rejection sensitivity among young adults. To explore, second objective, to explore identity styles, perceived social support, and rejection sensitivity as a predictor of gender stereotype. Now, following are the hypotheses of the study. Identity style, perceived social support, and rejection sensitivity are likely to have a relationship with perceived social support and gender stereotype. Identity style, perceived social support, and rejection sensitivity are likely to predict gender stereotype. Methodology. Research design. Cross-sectional research design was used in my study and sampling set strategy. The sampling strategy that was used in my research is convenient sampling with 130 females and 150 males, and the age range was 21 years to 25 years. Inclusion criteria. Both male and female are included in this study. Only those participants were included who gave informed consent for this research procedure. University students between the age range of 25 to 25-year-old were included. Now the research measures identity style inventory. It has 40 items on a 5-point Likert scale and is designed to measure 3 identity styles, namely as these are the subscales: informational, normative, and diffuse avoidant identity style and identity commitment. The multi-dimensional scale of perceived social support that was used to examine perceived social support, it has 12 items that consist of 3 subscales: family, friend, and significant other perceived social support. Adult rejection sensitivity. The adult ARSQ is an 18-item inventory specifically devised to measure rejection sensitivity in an adult population. Gender stereotype. This is 23-item scale was used to examine the gender stereotype of study individuals. Results. Pearson correlation coefficient. Results showed that the rejection sensitivity has significant positive correlation with perceived social support and informational and normative identity style. Gender stereotype has significant positive correlation with perceived social support from family, informational, and diffuse avoidant identity style. Gender stereotype has significant negative correlation with gender and family system. Next, please. Regression analysis. Multiple regression analysis indicate the 3 predictors that are identity styles, perceived social support, and rejection sensitivity explain 46.8% of variance in gender stereotype. discussions. Conclusion of my study. The result of the current study indicate that perceived social support from family, peer, and significant others, rejection, sensitivity, and identity style can lead to gender stereotype behavior. Implications. These findings have implication in developmental psychology, psychology of gender, clinical and counseling of youth, and social aspect of gender stereotyping. For future suggestions for this paper, the study was conducted by a convenient sampling and in one university for a more concrete understanding of how perceived social support from family, peer, and significant other, rejection, sensitivity, and identity style can lead to gender stereotype behavior in young adults. A large sample recruited by random sampling is needed. For a deeper understanding of underlying psychological feature of perceived social support, role of identity style and rejection sensitivity that can lead to gender stereotype behavior, a qualitative approach within that intervene can be conducted. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anam, for your presentation. Dr. Rana.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this, for your research. It was a good study overall. You have taken international standardized tools. I hope that you have taken the permissions from the authors to use your tools, and they must have been adapted for your study. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, I just want to know that yes, your sample was. You said that both male and the females were included in the study. So, can you tell us if you have conducted an analysis by sex to tell us that is there any differences in the results for the males or the females, so that we can see that what type of behaviors or kind of social support or reaction sensitivity and other variables they relate. So is there any significant differences you could find among males and the female students?
no, ma'am, there is no difference.
There was okay. I was okay. There were no. Have you conducted an analysis, or you found no differences?
Ma'am, I found there is no difference.
Okay, there was no difference. Okay, interesting. Okay, आपने why you have chosen convenient sampling? You were so where you can easily find out. So why in the convenient sampling? And I'm also interested to know that when you use convenient sampling, you must know for carrying out different analysis, they don't allow us to use some kind of analysis which you have used. So because it's a non-metric data you have collected. So why convenient sampling? Why not random sampling?
Ma'am, convenient sampling is easy for me. That's why I choose this in my university.
बिल्कुल, वो तो आप बिल्कुल ठीक कह रहे हो कि कन्वीनियंट सैम्पलिंग होती ही इजी है, लेकिन जब आप ऐसी सिचुएशन में हो जहाँ यूनिवर्सिटी स्टूडेंट्स हैं और वो बेशुमार हैं आपके पास, तो आप बड़े आराम से यू कैन गो फॉर द रैंडम सैम्पलिंग, उससे आपकी आगे जो स्पेस है वो बहुत इंक्रीज हो जाती है और यू कैन कंडक्ट मेनी अदर, बिकॉज डाटा आपका जो टूल्स आप यूज कर रहे हो दैट इज वंडरफुल, तो इससे बहुत सारे चीजें हम और भी देख सकते हैं. So that is very rich. लेकिन आप कुछ चीजें अगर आप randomly, if you have collected the data randomly, तो उसमें काफी सारी चीजें और आ सकती हैं. Okay, thank you Anand, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you, Anam, and thank you, Dr. Malik. And now move to the next presentation. Our next presenter is Faiz Yunus, and he's going to present on what makes women social cynics, an exploratory study. The topic seems very interesting. Faiz, you can start your presentation. And would you like me to share your presentation?
I can do that. Thank you.
Okay.
Is it visible to everyone?
Yes, we can see that.
Okay, let me enlarge it. Okay, the topic of my presentation today is basically social cynicism was a construct in which I was interested, and when I started working on it, so I found out that women might have a different kind of idea regarding social cynicism. So what is basically social cynicism? It is basically a negative view of human nature that involves a biased view against some group or people, and obviously the mistrust in different social institutions. And that basically comes from obviously a position of injustice or distrust, like for example what United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs stated, that in the context of different allocation or accessibility to different resources, power, autonomy and status, there are different kinds of social groups that feel that they are experiencing inequality. So studies have also showed that minority groups, as far as racial construct is concerned, they experience higher level of cynicism in comparison to the majoritarian group. Similarly, male dominance leads to experiences of social cynicism in women. And like we all know that most of the time, or in the most part of the world where there is a patriarchal system in society, the power, the control and the decision making all is being held by mainly men. And they receive more prestige, influence and wealth in comparison to women. So this basically creates a kind of social injustice or social inequality that may be a contributing factor towards social cynicism. And that's what different studies has expressed, like Alexandra and her colleagues found out that social dominance that is very much prominent in men, that is a reason, potential reason for development of social cynicism in them. So after reviewing this brief literature, I moved on to method section of my presentation. My research question. Yeah.
Excuse me, first you need to move your slides. We can still see your first slides.
Oh,
you need to move your slides.
I am moving my slides at. Let me check what's happening.
You can see your method. Yes, we can see.
Okay, sorry for that. So in method second, my basically research question was what are the lived experiences of social cynicism in women? I adopted a qualitative approach, and basically including the triangulation approach in qualitative research method, I conducted an FGD as well as open-ended questions, questionnaire technique, and collected the data till the point of saturation when there wasn't any new thing or new themes were emerging from the data. So I stopped, and that basically limit my sample to 20 participants, and their age range were obviously they were young adults, emerging adults, so their age range was 20 to 23 of years of age, and they didn't reported any kind of physical or mental health related issues. They have been university students for at least 2 years, mostly belong to nuclear family system, were middle born, and has a monthly family income of 136 PKR. Moving to the result section. So I applied basically thematic analysis, and 5 basic central themes emerged from that data, namely gender inequality and discrimination, misrepresentation and misinterpretation, negative beliefs and generalizations, authority and control, and lastly, safety and security concern. And obviously, as you can see, that there are certain sub-themes to each central theme as well. I have included certain quotes here as well, but obviously due to limited time frame, I might not be reading all the statements or basically quotes, but just sharing the very first one, like from Gender Inequality and Exploitation. This is a quote for familial discrimination, which is a sub-theme. There's no fair play in parental treatment. I can't even go to my best friend's house or market without taking permission, but my brother is free to do whatever he wants and go wherever he wants. It's like being a man gives you license to do everything you desire without restriction. As far as legal discrimination is concerned, it's hard to get legal justice in Pakistan, especially if you are a woman. So statements like that basically represent the idea of gender inequality and exploitation that women face in Pakistan. Similarly, this socio-political discrimination was also evident as a participant basically shared that you can't expect women to be good drivers when all their lives they are taught to sit back and being chaperoned and driven to places. This is what invisible discrimination looks like. Other than these basic ideas of gender inequality and exploitation, I also found that vulnerability to exploitation was also a very important theme that emerged. And here is this quote that even when cesarean isn't needed, doctors will force women to undergo the surgery just to make money. And of course, at that point, you can't argue with them or move around from one hospital to another. So this was basically my first central theme, and it has other sub-themes as well, as you have seen. Then next central theme was misrepresentation and misinterpretation, and this misrepresentation is from very first sub-theme is talking about the media. Pakistani dramas are the worst. You will find a cheating husband or a female lead sister romantically involved with brother-in-law in every other play. What kind of message these dramas are giving to the audiences other than creating mistrust? And women are mostly depicted extremely negative, while men are shown as either naive or saviors of women. So this kind of misrepresentation was reported. Social misrepresentation was basically the very common thing which we basically listen here and there whenever we are talking about feminism or when we are talking about gender injustice. So we hear that, and that was also quoted by a participant. You must have heard that औरत ही औरत की दुश्मन है. Women is the real enemy of one another. Such kind of social commentary puts all the blame on women, leaving men completely out of the discussion as if they are the victims. So this was a very pertinent point that this particular participant made. Apart from that, religion-based misinterpretation was also emerged as a sub-theme, and as I quote, Islam has given us many rights, but all that we hear from mullahs is baseless religion-based discrimination in which women presented as a temptation that needs to be hidden or covered. Other than that, my third main central theme was negative beliefs and generalizations, in which the first sub-theme that emerged was negative parental expectations. And I quote, although my parents are educated, they still hold beliefs like kisi ki buri nazar lag jayegi, someone's evil eye can lead to personal problems. Therefore, one should never share their positive life experiences or achievement with others, because you never know who will cast an evil eye on you, and then everything will be destroyed. So this kind of a journal belief system that parents basically inculcate in the participants, that's what they basically shared. Other than that, the central and sub-theme of negative belief and generalization was negative generalization through media. I have already mentioned in misinterpretation of media as well that participants feel that the media is not representing them well. Here is another quote. Whenever I open my Instagram, mostly my timeline shows stories of women who reporting personal incidents of abuse and violence, or there's always someone threatening or bullying them. So I don't want to undermine or disregard their experience, but it's like the bombardment of negative experiences happening to everyone all over social media that I believe isn't the only thing happening in this world. I think people do journalize such experiences or at times exploit such things to get more attention and followers on social media. So in day-to-day conversation, we do listen to these kinds of statements as well whenever there is a talk about discrimination and violence against women. Negative future expectations is also emerged as a central sub-theme, And honestly, and I quote, honestly, looking at the state of affairs in which we are currently living, I don't have much hope regarding any betterment. So this basically highlights the hopelessness, if you allow me to say, that my participant basically mentioned. Third central theme was authority and control, as I mentioned, and parental authoritarianism emerged to be a very important factor. As I quote, my father believed that becoming a doctor is a respectable and valuable profession for women, so he forced me to opt for pre-medical instead of fine arts that I wanted to pursue. Similarly, this control is obviously not limited through parental authoritarianism. Sometimes there are other agents of socialization, like here I quote, through different media outlets and media programs. And I quote, my father regularly watches Crime Patrol, which is a basically crime show, and talks about halat bare kharab hain, the alarming state of affairs in general, but especially brings it out whenever I have to go outside, out of home, or shopping, or to meet friends. So this basically, what should I say, specific usage of these kinds of examples at a certain point in time that also basically highlights control and authority. Next major theme or central theme was safety and security concerns, and obviously parental concern for safety is very important. As I quote, traveling alone has become an issue since I have moved to this city for my education. Once I was traveling back to the hostel and I received a call from my father. When he realized I was traveling alone in Uber, he reprimanded me, quoting bad incident. Since that day, I have always been anxious about commuting alone. Similarly, another theme, sub-theme that emerged was sense of imminent danger. And I quote, whenever I go out in public space, I always have to stay alert and aware of my surroundings because you never know when someone can pinch or harass you. It's like I'm in a constant state of threat. And this is quite common with women. Just thinking about our safety and anticipating that something bad can happen is itself an emotionally draining experience. So these were basically most of the themes that emerged from my study. And if we basically look into these findings and the literature, we do find that the gender inequality that emerged as a central theme in my study as well. This has been quoted by previous studies like Helixson in 2020 and Bukhari and Ramzan in 2013, who basically mentioned gender discrimination and authority and power of control in a patriarchal system. Similarly, the misrepresentation and misinterpretation also include the objectification of women, as it has been quoted by Ul Huda and Ali back in 2015. Sexualization and misrepresentation of women was also acknowledged by Davis back in 2018. And as far as the religious misinterpretation was concerned, Barlas 2019 also claimed that the interpretation of certain religious texts has been manipulated over the period of centuries just to oppress women, whereas in the eyes of Allah or in front of Allah, everyone is equal. About negative beliefs, obviously I mentioned that the hopelessness was what that emerged, and those negative beliefs are also in general quoted by O'Connor back in 2004 regarding authority and control, specifically from parents' point of view. That was also quoted by Scheck back in 2007. Safety and security concerns, specifically in mobility and transportational point of view for women, that was also explored and reported by Stark and Meslick in 2018. So the limitations and suggestion for this study is it was obviously a qualitative study. So although I did investigated or asked the research question till the point of saturation, but still the sample is relatively limited. So for broader external validity, we can either use a different approach like quantitative approach that can be used also. And the implications of this study is obviously, because when I started looking out for social cynicism work in Pakistan, I didn't find much of the work, because was more like the journal cynicism or organizational cynicism that has been explored in quite a detail. But social cynicism, and specifically social cynicism from the point of view of women, that was missing. And that's where my study basically comes in. That will also enable different therapists, psychologists, or counselors also, while they are investigating the issues and problems of individuals, specifically of women, and they will be in a better position to deal with them. And lastly, I guess government and NGO sector can also include this very important aspect of social cynicism, that how does it create mistrust in women specifically who are working on gender-based inequality and injustice. So that can be a productive study for them to utilize in their development policies. So that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paz, for your presentation. You can stop sharing screen.
Yes.
Or Faz, could you please go move, and we would like to see your first slide. Is it possible?
Very first slide.
Yes, very first.
Yeah.
The social cynicism where.
Yes,
This
we would
one?
like to see, Faiz, how you are describing social cynicism. Which has a negative view of human nature and multipliers. Okay, so before we invite Dr. Rana for comments, we would also like you to explain to us what is the basic theory that you formed after this qualitative research. How are you framing women as social cynics?
Well, I'm not labeling them as social cynic. My basically starting point, as was shared in this very slide also, and the next preceding slide on the basis of literature, it was basically the literature suggests that the minorities, anyone who consider themselves as minority on the basis of races, on the basis of sex, so they might have a certain kind of mistrust towards their social institutions they experience in their life. So on the basis of that, and when I conducted, because ideally I was basically trying to develop a scale on social cynicism. So for that I conducted first FGD, and all of the participants were women. And when I basically looked into the data, and I realized that instead of generating a similar kind of scale or work regarding social cynicism in general for both men and women, why not just concentrate on the women aspect, because I felt like it was missing from the literature, specifically in indigenous settings. So that was basically my rationale to do this study, and my line of action. And obviously whatever the data suggests further, I just move with that.
Thank you. Dr. Rana.
Thank you so much, Faz. It's always a delight listening to you, even if it is after years and years. Thank you so much for your wonderful presentation and the talk on which you worked on, the experiences of the social cynicism among women. I would say that yes, there are very few studies which I have gone through on this topic. So definitely there is a need to work more on this particular topic in Pakistan particularly. The themes which emerge out of your data, they were also very much relevant to the real life situation we see in Pakistan, but reference to women, like gender discrimination, gender inequalities, and the family discriminations, and authority, safety, security, vulnerability to the situations. Quote from the quotes which you have just shared in social fabric of our society. And for women, 100% yes, they go through all these kind of discriminations and situations every day in their lives. What I see particularly from your study is that among all the themes you have indicated, the parental control, authority, and the kind of concerns the parents have, and the kind of maybe I would not say discrimination on the part of parents, but the kind of concerns they have and the decisions they make on the basis of those concerns. Like not allowing a girl, for example, you said, to choose a particular career. She wants to have another one, but the parents force her to be in another one, which they think is safe for the women to work in a society like Pakistan. So I would not say that this is the kind of discrimination the girls are facing, but I put it in another way, that because of their concerns, because of their experiences they have, जैसे आपने भी कहा बीच में कहीं के the parents have a concern that the halat बहुत खराब हैं, या the situation is like this. I remember when even years back, I said that I want to be to take admission in university. My father came with me on the very first day of my admission, and he saw the he just roamed about in the university, and then he said, okay, fine, yes, now in his perception, I don't know what was in his perception when he ever thought of university, but then he said, okay, fine, you can study here and so on. So the media representation, which you have rightly pointed out, the kind of presentations we have regarding women in different situations, like particularly I would say in the work environment is which not be the real case in the work situations, and that is the reason that the women face harassment. They have safety and security issues on the streets, in the parks, in the public places. I conducted a study last year, and which was the national level. Fine, yes. As you said, you saw from the concluded from the lived experiences of them that they don't feel safe when they come out of their homes, and always there is a kind of fear in their minds, whatever, even if they are in the parks for relaxation. So yes, there have been many misinterpretations of the religion, the way we present it, particularly regarding women, and we use it the way we want to. I would not use the very hard words to oppress or snub them, but to force the kind of gender norms and values we have created in our societies, which definitely made it great, and which are to some extent changing also. And we are now in a position in Pakistan that we are discussing the gender roles also. So, and this is a very complex situation in the sense that, yes, all the agents of socialization, which you have rightly pointed out, must work together if we want women to come out of this kind of cynicism, if see that. And yes, definitely, if the women, they see all around what is being observed, this kind of attitude is very much natural if it is among them. And as you have pointed out, I'm happy that we are able to generate such kind of discourses. We are.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an introspective and detailed comment. Thank you so much.
Faiz, you can stop sharing your screen.
Okay.
So thank you, Faiz, and thank you, Dr. Rana. Now our next presenter is Dr. Sayyida Azra Batul. Do we have with us Dr. Azra Batul? I can't see. Again, do we have with us Dr. Sayyida Azra Batul, our next presenter? I can't see her name. Okay. No, I would like to invite Dr. Subha Malik, the project head of this program, for some concluding remarks.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Rana for taking out her precious time to chair this session. Thank you very much, Dr. Rana, for your comments and for your valuable time. We really appreciate this. And it was a very nice session. I think very interesting studies and researches were shared over here. So it was really interesting to see people opting for the conference and then sharing their researches over here. And we will be sending you the conference certificates, inshallah, soon. So now, Madiha, you can just...
Thank you all participants. Thank you very much, Dr. Rana, for joining this session. And thank you all participants and presenters for sharing with us your valuable papers. Now, I would like to share with you information. There's another session going, there will be another session which will start around 3:15, named as Gender in Workplace. You are more than welcome. You can use the same link if you want or interested to join that session. Thank you all from my side. Thank you, Dr. Rana.
Thank you, Madiha. Thank you, Dr. Subha.